Tengan todos ustedes muy buenos días. Es un gusto para nosotros que nos acompañen en este nuevo webinario de la serie de seminarios que estamos impulsando en el SICA, en el Sistema de la Integración Centroamericana, denominado Hacia la Transformación Digital de Centroamérica y República Dominicana. Este es un conjunto de webinarios que se ha tenido a bien identificar los temas importantes que la población de Centroamérica y República Dominicana debe conocer en el tema de transformación digital de Centroamérica y República Dominicana. Así que vamos a iniciar. Permítanme presentarme. Mi nombre es Ricardo Cáceres. Estoy a cargo de la Dirección de Tecnologías de la Información de la Secretaría General del SICA y también formo parte de la Secretaría Técnica Administrativa del Grupo Hoc, que es la instancia regional que está apoyando el trabajo del Grupo Hoc de la Estrategia Regional Digital del SICA, también conocida como ERDI. Como ustedes saben, hoy la región cuenta con un nuevo y valioso y estratégico instrumento que fue aprobado en el Consejo de Ministros de Relaciones Exteriores y este instrumento se denomina la ERDI, Estrategia Regional Digital, que tiene por objetivo tener un espacio de diálogo, de intercambio de experiencias, de conocimiento entre los diferentes países miembros del SICA que conforman el Sistema de la Integración Centroamericana para definir esa agenda de trabajo compartida, esas líneas de trabajo común de hacia dónde debe de dirigirse la región en los próximos años en materia de transformación digital. Como ustedes saben, ya la transformación digital se ha convertido en un imperativo de los países, de las organizaciones, de las instancias regionales, de las regiones mismas para poder posicionarse ya en un mundo cada vez más digital. En este sentido, se está impulsando esta transformación digital donde ya los países definieron el tipo de transformación digital que se quiere impulsar y es una transformación digital inclusiva, equitativa y segura, que nos permita caminar todos juntos hacia un objetivo común para poder ir mejorando y ampliando la cobertura de los beneficios que nos permite una transformación digital. Hoy tenemos el agrado de presentarles lo que es el resultado del trabajo coordinado de este grupo Hoc, que estaba siendo y está siendo liderado hasta junio hasta el 30 de junio de este mes por la presidencia, por la República, por Belice, perdón, que está ejerciendo la presidencia pro tempore de este grupo Hoc de la ERDI. Y me acompaña en esta oportunidad Alexia Peralta, que es la directora de Governance and Digitalization Unit del Ministry of Public Utilities, Energy, Logistics and Governance de Belice, que has tenido una participación realmente activa para lograr avances importantes y consolidaciones importantes en lo que es la estrategia regional digital del SICA, su agenda digital y su correspondiente plan de acción. Así que, sin más, permítanme presentarles a Alexia Peralta. Bienvenida, Alexia. Gracias por este espacio donde se va a dar a conocer precisamente los resultados concretos, los resultados tangibles que se han tenido y se ha avanzado en este semestre, donde Belice ha tenido la presidencia pro tempore de este grupo Hoc de la ERDI. Así que adelante, Alexia, el espacio es tuyo.
Well, good morning as well, Ricardo, to you and your team and to everyone who's joined us online today. It's really an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be joining you here today as the current pro tempore president, representing, of course, Belize as a digital champion for digital transformation in not just my country, but in the region. It's truly a pleasure to have this space, to have this conversation with you about the advancements that we have made, not just at the country level, but as a region, and how together we're going to drive that digital transformation of the region in order to be able to improve lives. We all have that one common goal of driving prosperity for our people and also for the region. So I'm happy to share with you all the great work that we have done under the SICA umbrella, and how we're going to continue to create this transformation change for you. So with that said, I will share my presentation for this morning, and I really hope that you get excited about the transformation process that's already occurring, but also the transformation process that is also going to continue to take place within the region.
Alexia,
So as
si me
Ricardo,
permites un segundo, ahí para los que necesiten la traducción, está el servicio de traducción en su botón inferior de Zoom, de su ventana de Zoom, donde pueden cambiar de inglés a español para las personas que requieran de la traducción de lo que Alexia nos va a exponer. Gracias, Alexia. Adelante.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. So as Ricardo indicated earlier, he really gave a really good summary of the core objective of the ad hoc committee for the implementation of the regional digital strategy. Our core purpose and objective is to support the digital transformation of Central America and Dominica Republic. So who are we when we say Central America and Dominica Republic? We represent 61 million people in the world, of which over 50% are women, over 35% are youths, 20% are indigenous populations, and 18% are Afro-descendants. Why this is critical? Why it's critical to understand who are we serving, who do we represent? It's critical because when we talk about digital transformation, while we tend to think a lot about the digital, we think about integration of technology, really and truly, the core value is to drive change for people, is to be able to support improvement in livelihoods for people, and to be able to design programs and solutions that help to solve the problems of our region, problems that you face as citizens of our region. So it's important for us to understand who we're representing. It's important for us to understand you and to be able to design programs that are most impactful for you. Because every single demographic, every single group in our region has different experiences, different challenges, and of course, with that, different needs. So you begin to see that our focus is to transform lives within Central America. And where are we located? Of course, we're located between North and South America. We're a group of unique countries, which include some Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, Belize, of course, who I'm very proud to be representing today, and Dominican Republic. Together, these 8 member countries make up SICA. Together, we are driving the transformation. So who do we mean when we say SICA? You know, you might hear us say it a lot. You heard Ricardo say it a lot, that we are a committee under SICA. Of course, this is the Central American Integration System, or as we know it in Spanish, Sistema de la Integración Centroamericana. And the core purpose of this institution is to help us as a region, as 8 countries, to come together with a core objective of driving peace, liberty, democracy, and development within the region. And we've been doing this together since 1991. So it's been 32 years of collaboration, 32 years of driving that change, and 32 years of ensuring that we're aligning and we're supporting each other's growth. So how did we begin talking about digital transformation? Digital transformation is not new. It's not new to the region. It's not new to the world. We've been having this conversation for many years. But in the region, it really started in 2015 when we started to have a conversation of how can we begin to use technologies that were once new then, which are not new now to us, but it was once new then. How can we use those technologies to achieve the core objectives of SICA? How can we use technologies to achieve development? How can we use technology to improve governance and democracy? So we began to see technology as a tool for change, a tool for transformation. And with that said, in 2018, really, the Council of Presidents took a strategic decision to ensure that the Secretariat General of SICA begins to mobilize the necessary resources to begin to design a strategy and a way forward for the integration of technology, so that technology can help us to better communicate, can help us to become more efficient, can help us to become an agile region, one that is proactive and can react to shocks, as well as one that helps us to achieve our development goals, not just regionally, but of course at a national level, because we all are trying to drive change within our respective countries. And that really gave birth to the regional digital strategy. As you heard earlier from Ricardo, the strategy really helps to give us that unified vision, that unified approach, and it really sets the basis in how together as a region we're going to work to achieve the digital transformation of the region, and how we're going to support the transformation process in each of these countries. You heard me say earlier from the very beginning that digital transformation is not about technology, it's about utilizing technology to transform lives. And that's why for us in this regional digital strategy, the core of this transformation process is also people, it's also you, it's also every single individual within our individual countries and territories, but as a region as well. How are we going to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our people? So our people is our top priority, and it is at the center of this digital transformation for us. This strategy, as I mentioned earlier as well, really helps to set that basis in how we're going to align as 8 member state countries to drive and promote digital transformation in an inclusive, equitable, and secure manner, so that as a region, we can drive that socioeconomic development, and that socioeconomic development can also impact us at a national level. I just want to highlight 3 main words that you see highlighted here. Inclusive. Inclusivity is a critical theme when we're talking about digital transformation, because if we want to transform the region, then we need to be inclusive of all demographics. We need to understand the experiences of everyone, and we need to know how can we design policies and solutions that really support women, that support youth, that even support the elderly, and how do we make sure we leave no one behind? Because when we begin to talk about technology, of course, there's challenges that you begin to see, like the digital divide and that exclusion. So inclusivity is critical for us as a principle in ensuring that this strategy really embraces. Likewise, equity and of course, security. We all want to be safe online, and it's critical that we're able to keep that as core principles to the work that we do. So the strategy tells us the what. It tells us what we want to achieve. It tells us what our vision is. It tells us what we're going to focus on. But the what needs to be supported by mechanisms and tools that helps us to achieve the what. So in the case of SICA, we have established certain mechanisms that helps us to coordinate as a region. And one of those examples, of course, is our ad hoc committee, where it is a committee that helps us to work together. It helps us to collaborate, and it helps us to really be able to design projects collectively to support the region. But even beyond that, it also helps us to be able to share our experiences. Of course, we're 8 member states. Everyone has different experiences, everyone is unique, and everyone is in a different level and stage of their own transformation process. The experiences that Belize has is not the same of the experiences that maybe Dominican Republic has, or even El Salvador. And we all are at a different stage. So it's important that we're able to provide a mechanism that helps us to share this knowledge, to share our experiences, and to share best practices, because we can learn from each other. And in so doing, we can mobilize the transformation process much faster and quicker, and then be able to say that we are a digital region. Of course, we needed to consider how do we improve and promote governance for better governance and best practices for the establishment and execution of this strategy and the agenda, and how do we mobilize resources for the effective implementation of this strategy, and of course, its action plan, which I'll touch a little bit later on. So now that we understand the what, we understand what are tools that were put in place to help us to implement. Of course, we need to understand the how. We have this unified vision, we have this unified objective, but how do we do this? It's 8 member states. How can 8 member states come together to execute this very ambitious but necessary transformation process for the region? And that is where this key instrument, the regional digital agenda, our action plan, our roadmap, our 4-year roadmap really comes to play. It is the 4-year plan of how we're going to achieve those objectives that were agreed upon in the strategy. It really details for those 4 years what are going to be the programs that we're going to focus on. And as you can see, it is focused from 2022 to 2025. Based on that, it has 10 core areas that we as a committee focus on supporting execution in. Digital skills, digital security, innovation, open data, change management, digital change management, digital economy, digital governance, digital interoperability, infrastructure and connectivity, and of course, recovery from the pandemic. These core areas, regardless of which country we're talking about, and not just in the region, but outside of it, regardless of our experience, our uniqueness, etc. These are core areas that are universal to us when we're talking about digital transformation, when we're talking about supporting that transition from analog governments and countries to one that's more digital. Now, we need to focus on people. So we need to ensure that our society has the necessary capabilities, capacity, and the skills to become that digital society. We need to ensure we have a very strong digital governance that helps us to support the actual implementation of these transformation processes and helps us to sustain that transformation process. Because we don't want to just do the transformation process and we don't have that sustainability, but we really want to transition our countries holistically into operating in one that's more digital. So those levels of governance are critical and important to support and to create the enabling environment for the transformation of our countries and by extension, the region. And of course, we have the elements of economy and how do we support even the private sector in becoming more agile and to be able to become innovative and to help us to build that digital economy that we also see as critical in this entire process. So these 10 areas are areas that we've prioritized, that we've seen as critical to be able to focus and to be able to support initiatives in so that each country can begin to improve in these areas and begin to collectively come together to create a larger impact for the region. Based on those areas, we've designed a very actionable plan, and we do this on a one-year basis. So I'm very proud to say that we're currently in the first year of implementation of our agenda, and our action plan for 2022-2023, I must say, is extremely ambitious, but regardless, because we're 8 member states, we really are coming together to ensure that we can achieve the core objective of that agenda. For this year, we have 24 projects. Out of those 24 projects, we have 13 that do not necessarily require financing, but it can be achieved by sharing of information, by building capacity, by building technical expertise within the region so that we can execute these different initiatives. 11 of those do require financing, and as part of the work that Ricardo and his team does, the technical secretariat is really helping us as well as a country, as a region, to be able to mobilize those resources so that we can execute those activities and we can begin to create impact. 5 of those projects are currently in the execution phase, and we hope that as the year continues that we can improve and we can increase that number of execution and success rate of the implementation of this plan. So what has been done in the last 6 months under the presidency of Belize? For us, we really focused on ensuring a strong institutional framework that would support not just the work of SICA, but would also help us to drive that implementation of the agenda, because we need to have those strong institutions as a foundational pillar to achieving digital transformation. And one of those mechanisms that we saw was important was the implementation of electronic signatures within the SICA organization. So within the last 6 months, specifically in April of this year, we were able to successfully get approval for the adoption of electronic signatures within the work of the SICA organization. And what do we mean by that is that electronic signatures will now be able to be utilized by, for example, the technical secretariat and Ricardo's team, all of those of us that participate in different committees, etc. We can now utilize electronic signatures to fast track the work that we do, to improve the effectiveness of the work that we do, and hopefully to begin to see greater improvements in operational level of SICA. There are 3 phases to this specific project. Phase 1, as I said, it's about ensuring the adoption of electronic signatures in SICA, so that SICA itself, we as an organization, can begin to champion this transformation process, that we can begin to show that technology can help us to improve the way we do things, can help us to improve our operations, and can help us to become more effective. So phase 1 has been about the Secretary General of SICA utilizing electronic signatures in their operations. We're currently in phase 2, where we're promoting the adoption of electronic signatures in the use of different projects that are executed by the different SICA committees and organs in the programs, and of course at those different committees. So regardless of whether you participate in committees related to health or committees related to climate change or even to agriculture, but once we're part of the SICA organization, that we can begin to utilize and embed technology, in this case digital signatures, as a means to help us to execute our work. Again, this was critical for us to focus on because we also want to drive transformation within our organization, and we also want to be able to show that we are true champions of this transformation process. The third phase, and this of course will come after a deeper understanding of the situation within countries, is really supporting how the member states can also begin to adopt electronic signatures, and this of course will depend on what state are those different member states and how do we support them in that transformation process. So taking this phased approach is also helping us to see how we can improve and how we can support that transition process, because we know this transformation process really is about supporting people and supporting that change of culture and mindset to now utilize technology as a core part of your operation. So this phased approach is really also helping us as a committee to understand what might be some challenges in implementing these types of technologies and how can we support and improve the way we support others to adopt these types of technologies. Again, it just really highlights the fact that in the first phases, it's really about supporting SICA, and it includes, like I said, the secretariat, the organs, the programs, the projects, etc. Another key achievement that was achieved during the last 6 months under our presidency was also the strengthening of the ad hoc committee. As you heard earlier, we are the committee that really helps to support the development and execution of this regional strategy and agenda. But beyond that, really and truly, we're trying to support the development of an information society within the region. And in order to do so, and I've said it, multiple times, you need to have a strong institution with clear mandates, with clear objectives and clear approach and processes so that we can ensure that we're being as effective, as efficient and impactful in the way we also do our work. So over the last 6 months, we've been working on improving the way our committee works and formalizing and really strengthening our structure, strengthening the way our functions, and really also clearly defining our mandate and how our mandate is going to support the larger objectives of SICA and how it's going to integrate with other organs within the SICA to be able to drive this development of that digital society and that transformation process that we're all now pushing towards, because we see that it's an essential next step in our countries and as a region. And then a third aspect, as you heard me say earlier, is critical to this transformation process is being able to share experiences, to be able to share our knowledge so that we can help each other through this transformation process. So the technical secretariat, led by Mr. Ricardo, really planned a workshop on cybersecurity for the member states and invited different expertise to help us to understand the importance of cybersecurity, but even so, how can we begin as countries to prioritize and begin to execute critical activities that will help us to promote and improve cybersecurity governance within our respective countries. Some of you may know, unfortunately, some of our member states were victims of cyber attacks. So we see that this is not a topic anymore for tomorrow, it's a topic of yesterday. We need to focus on ensuring that we are creating an enabling environment that is also safe for our citizens, but also that we are prepared as member states to be able to bounce back from any such shocks to our economy. So these types of exchanges that are organized by the technical secretariat are very important, so that as a region, we can begin to tackle these challenges together, and we can begin to pool and utilize our limited resources together so that we can create that change that's necessary and we begin to strengthen the enabling environment for a successful transformation process in the region. So in summary, that was the regional digital strategy and agenda. And like I said, it's really a pleasure to have been able to do this session with you to give you a deeper understanding of the strategy, why we're doing these initiatives, how it's going to impact you living in the region, and how is it that we're going as 8 member states trying to really create this transformation process, and what has been some of our successes and some of our key achievements and especially some of the key achievements during our presidency and what was the core purpose for us. So I really hope that you have been able to get a deeper understanding of the work that the ad hoc committee does, and to be able to really now participate with us and to begin to champion this transformation process within your space, because we need you to also help us to transform the region. And if you're interested to know more about the ad hoc committee, if you're interested to know more about the agenda and the strategy and what's going to come, all the exciting things that are going to come, I invite you to really go on our webpage. The QR code is there so that you can access all of this information. There's additional resources on the website. During a previous pro-temporary presidency, there were some videos that were even conducted and developed in cybersecurity to also give you some tips in how you can keep yourself safe at home and when you're engaging online. So all of these resources are at your fingertips so that you can begin to be part of the transformation process. So I really hope that you take full advantage of all the resources to engage with us in this transformation process. And thank you so much. And I will pass it back on to our Masters of Ceremony this morning.
Muchas gracias, Alexia. Muchas gracias por esa excelente presentación, amplia y clara presentación. Déjenme decirles que nos hemos sentido súper complacidos del liderazgo que ha ejercido Belize al frente de la presidencia pro tempore del Grupo ad hoc, y que muestra de ello son el resultado que nos acaba de explicar Alexia, los resultados concretos, que son dos instrumentos. Uno de ellos tenía aproximadamente casi 1 año y medio de venirse trabajando, y es el reglamento de adopción y reconocimiento de la firma electrónica en el ámbito del SICA, que prácticamente nos posibilita ya a toda la institucionalidad regional del SICA a introducir este útil y clave instrumento que es la firma electrónica. No podemos estar hablando de transformación digital en la región si no tenemos la firma electrónica como uno de los elementos aceleradores de estos procesos. Definitivamente, gracias Alexia, ha sido bastante claro. Gracias a todos los participantes también. Tenemos una cantidad importante de consultas, lo cual nos demuestra el interés en el tema, Alexia. Así que vamos a ir tratando de irlas consolidando, tal vez por temas. Nos preguntan aquí, el señor Mejía nos dice, ¿cuáles considera que son los principales retos de impulsar la estrategia regional digital del SICA en la región? Si nos puedes comentar algo al respecto, Alexia, te lo agradecería.
I think one of the important steps in the execution of the regional digital strategy has really been the commitment of SICA to implement the institutional arm, which is the ad hoc committee, to further strengthen us to be able to execute this work. I cannot overemphasize the importance of having a strong institutional framework for the execution of the process. Second to that, of course, is ensuring that there is a space for member countries to be able to share experiences. And we actually have a platform that was led by the Technical Secretariat, Ricardo and his team, in being able to allow that space for us to share resources and to help us to begin to collaborate better and to plan projects together. So it really fundamentally to everything is having an improved digital governance for the execution of this strategy, which then helps us to achieve the larger objectives of improving digital skills, improving cybersecurity awareness, being able to improve infrastructure and connectivity. So it really forms the foundation of the work that we're trying to do together.
Excelente, Alexia. Como información para nuestros participantes, en la pasada reunión del 9 de diciembre en Santiago de los Caballeros, se aprobó una declaración que identifica con total y absoluta claridad cuáles son las instancias regionales que conforman el sistema de la integración centroamericana. Y para satisfacción de todos nosotros, quedó el grupo ad hoc de la ERDI como una de las instancias oficiales válidas dentro del SICA para que pueda operar y pueda funcionar en el SICA, que cuenta con todo el respaldo institucional, precisamente por estos resultados que se están palpando, digamos, en la región, y que este casi solo podría decir que es la punta del iceberg de todo lo que este grupo comprometido está haciendo. Definitivamente creo que el grupo ad hoc con los 8 líderes, está conformado por los 8 líderes que impulsan las agendas nacionales digitales, está haciendo un extraordinario trabajo y está poniendo en su justa dimensión el tema digital como un elemento acelerador del proceso de transformación digital y también del proceso de integración regional. Tenemos acá algunas felicitaciones, también felicidades a la presidencia pro tempore, nos dice el señor José Antonio Mira, por el excelente trabajo realizado en su gestión. Así que felicidades, Alexia.
Muchas gracias.
Bueno, Alexia habla perfectamente el español también, pero dijo que quería hacerlo en inglés, así que entiende perfectamente el español. Así que tenemos aquí otras consultas. Hablábamos de que cada uno de los países se mencionó la posibilidad que tenemos en la ERDI de compartir experiencias entre países. Cada uno ha tomado algún liderazgo en determinados temas, unos en temas de ciberseguridad, otros en conectividad, otros en formación digital, etcétera, otros en gobierno electrónico. ¿Cuáles son esos temas en los cuales Belize puede aportar con su experiencia, su conocimiento a la región para poder equiparar esos temas al resto de países y que estos se vean beneficiados? Si nos puedes mencionar estos aspectos, Alexia, te lo agradecería.
Certainly. I must be realistic in saying that, of course, there are other member states that have significantly more strengths than us in relation, for example, into cybersecurity. But when it comes to our expertise and the work that we've really been able to improve is in creating the enabling legal framework. Belize has one of the strongest legal frameworks for digital transformation and digital governance in the region. We now have legislations that are aligned with best standards in the world, especially as it relates to data protection, and really aligning to those global standards. So this is an area that I do strongly see where we can share our experiences in improving that legal framework within our countries, but even so the implementation of those legislations, because enacting a legislation is only the first step. It's how do we implement those principles into the work that we do within government and within the society. And we've done significant work in the legal realm that I think we are in a very excellent position to share our experience, to share how we can utilize different tools to begin to implement those legislations, whether it be to support data protection, it be to support the adoption of electronic signatures, the usage of electronic documents, electronic evidence, promoting electronic transactions, cybersecurity, and protection and enforcement for cyber attacks, and then of course even data sharing within the public. So all of these legislations are now in place, and we're always happy to share our experiences from implementing those legislations and how we can create that enabling environment. We even have an action plan for those legislations, and we're actually going to be conducting planning a series of webinars on each of these important legislations so that we can begin to give real life examples of how this legislation can support us in our day-to-day activities, not just as government, but even as public and even as the private sector. So these are all tools that we are always happy to share and to provide support given that it's become one of our very strong areas when we talk about digital transformation.
Gracias, Alexia. Sabemos también, Alexia, en esa misma línea que Belice ha dado un giro importante en todo el modelo de gobernanza. De hecho, ha habido una reestructuración importante de cómo estaba antes las áreas de tecnología o las áreas que estaban impulsando una estrategia nacional en Belice a cómo está actualmente. ¿Cómo se ha logrado establecer ese modelo de gobernanza y cómo se obtuvieron esos apoyos importantes como para poder posicionar dentro de la agenda política el tema de la formación digital?
Excellent question. Really and truly, we took very similar steps like SICA in having our regional digital strategy. But for the first time, we really took a more holistic approach of how we want to transform lives by developing our first national digital agenda. When we're talking about transformation and we're talking about organizational change, the first step is having that unified vision. So we now have a very strong unified vision, that our own 4-year actionable plan that really integrates how we're going to set the foundation for a digital economy, what are going to be the main steps over the next 4 years that we're going to build on, and also how are we going to support sectorial transformation. Because as it is now, we really tend to jump into trying to transform sectors first. We try to transform health and agriculture and climate change as a siloed approach, but having that regional, or in this case, our national digital agenda, then unifies us to say, well, we need to have certain horizontal pillars, certain horizontal activities that allows ministries and sectors to transform. So the national digital agenda, the names are so similar, is really our first step that we took in improving digital governance. Of course, we also have the fact that it was for the first time that the government established a Ministry of E-Governance. Prior to the existence of our unit and our ministry, we did not have an institution with the actual mandate to support and execute digital transformation. And we saw the impact that that created. We had a previous policy, but the policy implementation was so slow. Over the 10 years that that policy was being executed, we only had about 20% implementation. So we needed to change the institution. We needed to strengthen the institution to help us to achieve that vision. So we established that Ministry of E-Governance, and to further incorporate digital transformation as a core to our country. We have now passed a Digital Government Act. It's one of its first in the region. It really sets the basis in how, as a government, we are now integrating digital transformation as a core of our operations. So it ensures sustainability, but it also ensures maximum commitment at the highest level that digital transformation is going to continue, that we're going to prioritize it, and that we're going to provide it the necessary resources to implement. The Digital Government Act also establishes core principles that as a country we will follow, regardless of what initiatives we're doing. These are core principles that we will at all times aim to achieve. That includes inclusivity, that includes the once only principle, that includes data protection, it includes sharing of information, etc. So that legal framework helps us as an institution, but it helps us as a government to know how we're going to align the work that we do, and how we're going to continue to do that in all of the development areas that exist within the country. So those have been, I must say, very critical steps and significant changes to the way we do digital transformation in Belize, because prior to that, we actually did not have any any of these major mechanisms. Now we do. And I must say that it has shown significantly in our implementation progress. If you follow us, or if you're not following us yet on Facebook or LinkedIn, you would be able to see that we're now doing a lot of work in various areas and being really able to drive the implementation of our national digital agenda.
Gracias, Alexia. Yo creo que es más que evidente el trabajo que se ha estado haciendo en Belice, y creo que toda esa experiencia de Belice definitivamente va a contribuir al fortalecimiento de otros países en la región que puedan estar pensando en cómo iniciar procesos similares o cómo aprender de los aciertos que se han tenido en la implementación y de cosas que también que se pueden mejorar. En el caso de la presidencia pro tempore ejercida por Belice, se tuvieron 2 importantes instrumentos aprobados. Algo que no se había tenido anteriormente. En la esfera del SICA, pues hay diferentes niveles de aprobación de este tipo de instrumentos, y creo que nos ha dejado lecciones valiosas, lecciones aprendidas valiosísimas. Sabemos la importancia que son los marcos normativos que nos está comentando Alexia para poder soportar y poder impulsar realmente el uso de las tecnologías a otro nivel. También el tema de cómo poder llegar a las esferas políticas decisorias para que tomen las decisiones necesarias para impulsar estas estrategias y estos instrumentos. Si nos podés comentar cómo ha sido la experiencia, cómo fue la experiencia para otras instancias tal vez regionales del SICA que estén pensando en cómo poder impulsar este tipo de instrumentos para poder luego concretarlos en los tiempos. En estos 6 meses se concretó. El apoyo político fue decisivo, el impulso de esta iniciativa a las esferas políticas decisorias del SICA. Si nos puedes comentar un poco al respecto, Alexia, te agradeceremos, porque me parece una lección importante que se ha aprendido por parte del SICA y del Grupo Avances.
No, excellent. Thank you so much, Ricardo. I think one of the main lessons that we've learned in this process, not just in supporting the adoption and approval of these different commitments in SICA, but even as a country, is the understanding of our end users and really understanding the climate and context. While we talk about SICA as a region, really and truly, we're 8 member states that each have different unique experiences, that each are at a different stage of their maturity process. So I think we can agree that one of the lessons learned is really understanding each of these contexts, understanding where they are, not just from a legal perspective, but from a policy perspective, from a capacity level, so that then when we design these programs, when we design these policies, that we're really providing and highlighting and even supporting that transformation process of the respective member states. Because each member state is at a different level of maturity. So it really takes us back to the fundamental aspect of digital transformation, which is focusing on people. And once we begin to focus on people and understand the context of people and their needs, then we're able to better design solutions, and we're better able to help them to accept this transformation, because it's a transformation. We're asking you to do something differently than you've ever done before. So we need to really be able to understand you so we can help you in that process. And which takes me to, I think, our second lesson learned, which is supporting change management. How do we create awareness of the initiatives that we're doing? And the webinars here today is actually a primary example of how we're now trying to create awareness of the work that we're doing so that we can help 61 million people in the region begin to transform and begin to adapt to a mindset of digital. So changing culture, supporting change management, and understanding people, I think, have been lessons learned in our process as the ad hoc committee, but even so, lessons learned, I might say, even in Belize, in the work that we do in driving transformation in our country.
Gracias, Alexia. Gracias. Muy interesante tu respuesta. Definitivamente creo que el impacto que va a tener el reglamento, específicamente el reglamento de adopción y reconocimiento de la firma electrónica en el SICA, posibilita de que ahora en la reunión de presidentes, órganos, los diferentes órganos decisorios del SICA, institucionalidad regional, programas y proyectos, puedan adoptar y hacer uso de la firma electrónica con total y absoluta confianza, porque tiene el mismo respaldo de la validez jurídica de una firma manuscrita. Imagínense ahora la celeridad que se va a tener para estas reuniones decisorias donde se toman importantes acuerdos y que estos instrumentos puedan firmarse electrónicamente en cuestión de minutos y no en cuestión de días o meses como sucedía anteriormente.
Yes.
Anteriormente tenía que pasar la empresa de courier distribuyendo los documentos en los 8 países. Muchas veces hasta se perdían o se dañaban los documentos hasta que llegaba, entonces tenía validez la decisión porque ya se había firmado por los 8. Ahora prácticamente se les estaría dotando a los presidentes, a los 8 presidentes que forman parte de la reunión de presidentes del SICA, al Consejo de Ministros de Relaciones Exteriores, al Comité Ejecutivo del SICA y a los consejos de ministros sectoriales de este poderoso y útil instrumento para la adopción y decisiones que toman en sus diferentes consejos de ministros. Así que muchas gracias, Alexia, tenemos una serie de consultas adicionales que creo que por cuestión de tiempo ya no nos va a quedar. Habían preguntas específicas sobre la firma electrónica. Creo que el tema de la firma electrónica ha generado bastante interés. Creo que podríamos hacer un webinario posteriormente específicamente de la firma electrónica para que se conozca el reglamento, cuáles son las implicaciones que tiene el reglamento, el alcance, el ámbito de aplicación y el concepto, por ejemplo, de la prestación de servicios de certificación en el ámbito regional, etcétera. Lo importante es que hemos dado un primer paso en la región y tenemos ya el instrumento que nos permite y posibilita el uso de este valioso instrumento digital como es la firma electrónica. Nos hacen algunas preguntas, por ejemplo, nos dicen dónde puede encontrar información de la ERDI. Hay un plan de divulgación, hay información sobre la ERDI en el portal. Sí, de hecho, Alexia mencionó de la sección que se tiene y ahí está prácticamente toda la información el grupo ad hoc, de la estrategia como tal, el grupo ad hoc que lo implementa, está toda la parte de las noticias que se van dando, los avances que se están teniendo y también los resultados concretos que está arrojando el trabajo de este grupo ad hoc. Así que, Alexia, por cuestión de tiempo, estamos ya a 5 minutos para ser puntuales. Quisiéramos que nos dieras un mensaje final de despedida de este webinario para todos los asistentes que agradecemos su participación y su tiempo por estarnos siguiendo. Adelante, Alex.
Well, thank you so much, Ricardo, to you and your team for organizing, I think, a very successful and important webinar. To everyone that joined us this morning, thank you so much for joining us, for being part of the conversation, and for really being interested in the work that the ad hoc committee is doing. I must say, once again, it's been a privilege to be the current pro tempore president of the ad hoc committee that's supporting the execution of this important and ambitious strategy that's really going to change lives. It's really going to transform the lives of the 61 million people in the region. So it's really a privilege, and I'm happy to be able to be here to share this information with you so that you can become a change champion in this process. And of course, without leaving today, I want to really take the opportunity to reiterate even Belize's commitment to SICA's vision and objectives and to our support in this transformation process of the region. We are extremely committed and dedicated in ensuring that we are achieving the vision of that strategy, that we're transforming our region into a digital society, and that we are keeping to the principles of inclusivity, principles of equity, and principles of security, and that we're part of this transformation project. So it's definitely for us a privilege to be a member of this very impactful committee, and that we also are able to form that bridge between Central America and even Caribbean. You've heard me speak this morning in English, is because Belize is very proud to be both Central American and Caribbean. So we hope that us being on this committee also helps us to create that bridge with other regions so that we can then begin to see the ripple effect of the work that we're doing in the region across the world. Because I think overall, we all have that objective of wanting to change lives and to create that shared prosperity of our people and our global community. So thank you so much for your interest. I hope that you continue engaged with us and that you take advantage of all the resources that Ricardo and his team have done such extensive job in really being able to provide at your fingertips with a website that has all the information that you may need, but also that you can also engage with us through those platforms. So thank you so much for the interest. And like Ricardo said, I'm glad to see the level of interest in the work that we're doing and that you continue to join us on the remainder of these webinar series. This is only the first of this year, and we have many more exciting stuff where you'll get to meet my other colleagues and the work that they're also helping to do in this process. So thank you.
Muchas gracias, Alexia. Gracias por tu presentación y consideramos muy valioso todo el conocimiento y experiencia que nos has transmitido en esta oportunidad. De hecho, este webinario es un acuerdo precisamente del Grupo Hoc de transparentar las acciones que estamos haciendo. Definitivamente nos debemos a ustedes y ustedes son nuestros principales beneficiarios de todos estos esfuerzos. Por lo tanto, son los primeros que deben de conocer de todo lo que estamos haciendo y los países están haciendo en el grupo Hoc, y nosotros como Secretaría Técnica Administrativa apoyando las decisiones que están tomando este importante y dinámico y estratégico grupo ahora que está formando parte de la institucionalidad regional del SICA. Así que los invitamos para finalizar que nos puedan visitar en la sección de la ERDI. Tenemos una sección especializada para los que preguntaban dónde pueden consultar información. De hecho, este video y junto con la serie de webinarios anteriores están en la sección de la ERDI, donde pueden consultar todo el quehacer de este importante grupo y los avances que se están teniendo en materia de transformación digital en la región. Adicionalmente, si quieren vamos a la siguiente, podemos ver, aquí tenemos en este QR, pueden escanear el QR y lo lleva directamente a nuestro canal de YouTube, donde está ya prácticamente toda los diferentes webinarios que se han realizado ya por parte del grupo Hoc. Así que les agradecemos a todos, son las 10:59, estamos a 1 minuto exactamente para respetar el tiempo de cada uno de ustedes. Les agradecemos su tiempo, su participación, su valioso interés y las consultas que nos han trasladado, las cuales han sido contestadas en su mayoría, y los invitamos a que estén pendientes en las diferentes redes sociales de la Secretaría General del SICA para conocer los próximos webinarios que se van a estar realizando siempre en el marco de la Estrategia Regional Digital del SICA. Recuerden que separados podríamos en algunos momentos caminar más rápido, pero juntos podemos llegar más lejos, y eso es lo que estamos buscando precisamente con la ERDI, llegar más lejos y hacer cambios profundos en la región, incorporando la digitalización como parte de una estrategia que forme parte del sistema de la integración centroamericana. Así que les agradecemos a todos por su tiempo. Pasen una feliz mañana, ya casi mediodía, para algunos en la región, y los esperamos en el próximo webinario. Hasta pronto.